Welcome to another Coffee and Tea episode.
Cheers.
This episode is going to be dedicated to drawing, also because we are about to launch our Language of Drawing workshop in a few weeks. And we wanted to just chat a little bit about the importance of drawing, the role of drawing in art making, and then maybe a little bit on the workshop as well, just to introduce what is it about, what is it not about, who is it for, and so on.
Yeah.
So Mark, I know that you have been drawing for
Forever,
for many years, many years. And you are also an abstract painter.
Yes.
So my question to you, I'm interested in the importance of drawing, not just for figurative artists, because that's kind of obvious,
Yeah.
but also for abstract artists, and maybe artists who are not primarily painters, but other kinds of artists, sculptors, graphic artists, people who work with clay, any kind of art, glass, it doesn't matter. Why is drawing important?
Easy question. It's not loaded at all.
Well, you can dissect. If you want, if you need to layer it, you can layer it.
Okay. Well, I've said this before, but I'll repeat it. Just on a human level, if we can start with that.
Sure.
I think drawing now more than ever is something to consider, whether people are just beginning or have done it for a while and stopped, or have been doing it and want to take a deeper dive. And I say this, Maria, because we now live in a very sort of fraught age. People are, it's an age of distraction, as I've said countless times. Fast pace. People are spending much more time on their devices than ever before. Attention spans are shrinking. Stress levels are up. I mean, it's just, we live in a very challenging time for all kinds of reasons. And I would submit to the folks out there that drawing is a refuge from that, whether it's from observation or whether it's just to draw from imagination or memory or even abstractly. Now, you asked about abstract painters, why would they want to consider a drawing course that's based on observation? And I can only tell you from my own experience as a young student that that's how I learned to paint, first of all. So I did a lot of drawing in college. I had really good instructors, and I learned to do everything from understanding light and shadow, form and volume, spatial play, design, composition. You know, Vincent van Gogh once said that he felt that drawing was the backbone of painting. Now, true, he was an observational painter, but you look at those paintings and they're anything but strict sort of realism. He's going all over the place. So there's a rich history, even amongst abstract painters, by the way, a rich history of painters who started out drawing or continue to draw. The same is true for photographers. The same is true for sculptors. The same is true for architects. You think of Frank Gehry and his beautiful gestural drawings. So it is a skill set that requires intense observation. And it doesn't matter, by the way, if the artist is attempting to create a realistic scene or not. Ultimately, it's about an interpretation of the world around us. So drawing is a language, a skill set. It sharpens the eye, I believe. It sharpens the eye, it sharpens the mind. And finally, to answer your question, going back full circle, when one engages in drawing, one is lost in time. It is a luxurious, magnificent time spent. And the focus is contemplative oftentimes. You mentioned that to me. She plays the student in our Language of Drawing, so she does a lot of the exercises that I'm asking the artists out there to do. And Maria herself admitted to me, or you can say it to the camera, that you found that
Yes,
to be
definitely.
true.
The passage of time shifts and changes. It does require keen observation and noticing details of these little forms that we were working with mostly, which are forms from nature, but anything that you're looking at, it really requires that deep immersion into the subject matter. And now that I'm thinking about, abstract artists, a lot of abstract artists derive their inspiration from nature and from the world around, even though the representation might not be obvious to the eye. There is the background stories that create certain emotions that then get transformed into a piece of art, even if it's completely abstract. So I do see how observing the world around, practicing and deepening that observation through the act of drawing could feed into any kind of artistic expression. It doesn't matter if it's figurative or abstract.
Yeah, it exercises a certain muscle in the eye, just like photography can. And right now I'm thinking, for instance, of Ellsworth Kelly, American minimalist abstract painter who drew beautifully. And he also did photography. So he would keep his eyes open. And I think that's part of it. It really helps you sort of exercise that muscle in the eye.
We also talked about how drawing is very immediate, very fast. You could have studies that can last for hours, obviously, but there is also something about, quick gestures, even that can be done in a few seconds, to shorter drawings where you can record a lot and it's kind of immediate. You don't have to, painting is usually layering and putting, even working with clay or glass. Like those are processes that take time for you to materialize the idea that you have in your mind. But drawing can be really immediate and quick. And just like as a tool to record, right?
To record, but also to conceptualize. So right now, for instance, I'm thinking of Richard Diebenkorn, another one of my favorite artists, and it's interesting. So he drew from the figure quite a bit. He also drew cityscapes from observation, and then he kind of came full circle and did abstractions for the rest of his career and life. But a lot of those abstract Ocean Park series, for instance, he would do little sketches, pencil to paper, take a minute, or 2, 5, 10 minutes, and he's already conceptualized the design that he wants to create. Right. So it's an immediate form of thinking, of seeing and doing. Yeah.
I'm also thinking about, even a brush stroke. It's a brush stroke, but in a way it's a drawing as well. Even if you're starting to draw on a canvas with your brush, conceptually you're still drawing. You're dividing, activating that picture plane, which is probably a line or a dot, right? Which is part of the drawing language as well.
Yeah. I have my students at CCA where I teach, and I'm constantly reminding them I like to teach them how to draw like they paint and to paint like they draw, so they're not afraid of that brush.
Right.
Now, speaking of fear, let's get into that one.
Sure.
So a great many people are afraid of drawing. A lot of people are afraid, especially if they haven't drawn much before, or if they have drawn and been frustrated with the results. So can we dive into that one for a bit?
Absolutely.
Well, there's no getting around it, number one. There's no getting around to frustration with the arts at all. All the arts.
Welcome to the club.
Welcome to the club, the frustration club. And then that, of course, feeds into fear. It feeds into doubt, or I should say that fear and doubt, they all are feeding into one another. And then we just think, oh, we're not good enough. I don't have what it takes. I don't have the skill set. This is too difficult. I don't have the time. All these reasons for either not starting at all or giving up. And it's, I understand that. And so it's not for everybody. So I would say this course that we've created, Maria, is really for people who want to draw, who have always wanted to draw, or did draw and want to get back to it, or are continuing to draw and want to push. Now, I use this analogy ad nauseum, so I'm sorry you're going to hear it for the umpteenth time. But I do use the analogy of a musical instrument. If anyone decides out there, I've always wanted to play the piano. That's a tough instrument. Guitar, a little bit less so. But even a guitar, if you want to learn guitar, that's going to take you time. So what do you have to do? Well, you have to have a guitar. Then you probably want to find a good teacher or a class with others. And then you're given homework. You have to learn your scales, and you start out with some very simple tunes. Very simple tunes, just to learn your chord changes, etc. And it takes some months, a number of months, before you're really starting to understand the vocabulary and the language where you can actually not only put a tune together, whether it's guitar or piano, but where you can start to feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's a long journey because it is a discipline.
Right.
Let's be clear.
It's
a skill set. Drawing is no different. And this is what I want to let the folks out there know. It is a skill set. I have worked with countless beginners, especially when I worked at the junior college level. Countless beginners, either just out of high school or in their older years. And within some months, a semester is about 15 weeks. So within just a few months with homework and practice, they notice the difference and they are starting to make drawings that don't necessarily, I need to be really clear here, they're making drawings that they are still not convinced is their best efforts,
Mm-hmm.
but they're making drawings that are having an experience of seeing
And making progress.
and making definite progress,
Mm-hmm.
and they're having fun,
Mm-hmm.
and they're surprising themselves. Like, oh wow, did I just do that? So yes, it's a skill set requiring patience, practice, and perseverance.
The famous 3 Ps.
The famous.
We'll
famous
do another
Ps.
another video on that. But I also wanted to say that Mark and I have had these conversations, even discussions about, is talent necessary for drawing? And coming from a different background and culture and education, I was stating that yes, talent is absolutely a must. And then Mark quickly convinced me that that's not really true, that talent, yes, can play a role, obviously, but it's not a prerequisite for someone to venture into the task of learning how to draw. Right. Because it's not ultimately about all of us becoming Leonardo da Vinci, it's about the personal, individual journey, those moments of excitement, of discovery, of aha moments, of realizing, of growing, of expanding our minds and our skill sets and applying that to then other mediums that we are maybe working or sticking with drawing and people dedicate their lives to drawing. So I really, that changed my mind in just understanding. And then I remember that I had a cousin who studied architecture and became an architect. But when she was just getting ready to go into the faculty of architecture back in Serbia, she lived with my family for about 6 months, going to these classes where, amongst other things, there was a lot of drawing, learning about perspective and so on, because part of the entry exam was to draw a big interior, just put that on the paper. So I remember that she did not have a lot of talent. She used to play piano, so she did have a little bit of that artistic streak, but I was at the time getting ready to go to art school, and I was looking at her drawings like, oh my God, how is she gonna do? But what I saw was a transformation, because she was a really hard worker. She was really motivated to get to the architecture school. So she started, her teacher gave her literally a piece of paper and a pencil and said, you have to draw straight lines. And the whole paper, just from top to bottom, draw straight lines, horizontal, vertical, diagonal, until your eyes come out of your sockets. And she would spend hours doing that, just refining her hand, because they were not supposed to use rulers. So
muscle memory.
A lot of that, and just the progression that she made was just amazing. And I remember that from my own life, and then put it together with Mark's theory. So I am a convert and a strong believer that anyone can learn to draw.
Yeah.
And that they can take it as far as they want to take it, and as circumstances, life, and so on allows. Yeah.
And when you mention talent, and some people who think that they don't have the talent, and that is, crucial. An element, a crucial. I'm thinking of one of my favorite writers, the short story writer Raymond Carver, and I've read this countless times too, where he talks about writers, in this case, same idea. And he says, there's plenty of talent to go around, he says, but what separates one writer from another is their unique and exact way of looking at the world and then finding the right way to express that way of looking. I have always loved, that's almost verbatim his quote, and I've always loved that because ultimately that's what we're doing. We're noticing the world around us. It's kind of phenomenal realism and magic
and variety.
qualities and varieties, everything. And then we're finding a way to express that. And that's really what matters at the end of the day. I think, Mira, the problem exists, and if I may say so, when the folks out there who are drawing, they get hung up in the product and they want that product to be exactly what they're seeing. And therein lies the frustration and the disconnect. And so we try mightily in this course to disavow that stance and instead saying, let's have some experiences. Let's really dive into some experiences using a pencil and paper to see things as they are or as we see them.
And we're trying not to say that, you know, we want you to draw a leaf as a cat, but we're trying to represent what we're seeing, right?
And interpret
it, but it's at the same time, it's kind of a little bit of that back and forth. Like, yes, we want you to draw a leaf or a flower or a pillow or an apple, but at the same time, we want you to relax. It's like, okay, if it's not exactly what it is, it's important just that you understand what you personally are going through, right?
Yeah.
And be aware of your own successes, of your own aha moments and changes.
And to go back to the guitar and the piano, if you're, it's one thing to learn Mary Had a Little Lamb. That's an easy song to learn for the beginner. If you want to move into Bach or Chopin or some jazz artist, that will take you time. And a pianist and a guitarist can work hours on getting a tune feeling just right. So where they finally go, yes, all the notes are there. Not only are all the notes there now, but I can feel the music. Drawing is really no different.
Right.
You might draw that leaf 4, 5, 6 times, a dozen times, 20 times, 50 times, until you really feel that leaf.
So we already, in our previous coffee and tea, touched a little bit on, it's a hard sell to tell people, yes, you will not learn how to draw amazingly in 6 weeks.
Right.
Because you will not, but it's going to be the beginning of a much bigger, longer journey that it will last as long as you want it to last.
Yes.
It is not a hard sell to say, well, if you want to see success and progression, you will have to work hard. And we cannot do that work for you, unfortunately. We can just give you starting points, ideas, and guidance to get you started and get you going. But we cannot do the work for you. No one can. So, this is not the type of course where you will have immediate gratification. It's like, oh my God, I'm doing these drawings that are amazing. No, it's not about that. And what we will provide, especially in the first 6 months of this course, is our support. We will have live Q&As for the first 6 months every 2 weeks. So hopefully we can answer those questions and address those frustrations and fears and little voices that will be starting to chatter. So we want to support you through your journey, not create a, follow the yellow brick road journey, but you will have to create your own, which just marks ideas, exercises, lectures, tools, strategies, starting points, guidances, right? But it's basically that. As you say, you cannot teach someone how to draw, but you can teach them how to learn to draw. And that's what we want to do. Yeah. So I guess that we covered a lot of territory, that this workshop is for those who are starting to draw.
Yes.
Maybe never drew.
Yes.
Those who drew in the past and it was a long time ago and they want to get back to it.
Yes.
Or those who have been drawing but maybe never had that
formal training.
Yeah. Yes. So it's for a variety of people, artists who do all kinds of art. It doesn't matter which medium you work with, but if you want to learn how to draw, this is the place to be.
And I will add one last thing, if I may, that where there is immediate gratification, believe it or not, is in the act of seeing and drawing, one slows down.
Yeah.
One begins to pay attention. One begins to notice things. Yeah. And that is immediate.
And it can be scary because 2 hours went by and what did I do? I have a drawing.
Right?
For me, that can be also a scary place. But if you can lean into it, then it can definitely help out.
Mm-hmm.
Anything to wrap it up?
No, I think we've said quite a bit.
Okay. Well, this is an invitation for those who might consider the language of drawing to click on the link below, visit the landing page, let us know if you have any questions or if you're having doubts, if this course is for you. We are certainly here and happy to help you navigate. Thank you.
Thanks. Ciao.